kind of late night. It's kind of late night. It's a late night talk. I have been asked to come on and talk about faith. My name is Jill Niebuhr, and I am Angel Warrior. Hello. Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you joined. Ha! Yeah, that's what's up. Faith. First thing that comes to my mind actually is how the energy around me has changed since my faith has been renewed. So I had a spiritual connection when I was very young. I remember having conversations with God when my parents were not available. My parents weren't very available. They worked a lot. And I had that special connection to the divine. And I had a deep thoughts about things. I would read the Bible and really like the Proverbs. That was pretty much where I learned a lot of my life skills, was in my reading Proverbs when I was a young girl. And I went to the Catholic school, and right away I saw human nature clash with spiritual nature. And it was actually amongst spiritual figures, just a misunderstanding of a lot of spiritual truths that were taught in the Catholic school. Not all of them, but I knew some things to be true, and I knew other things to not be true, because I already had a special relationship with God. And I remember seeing people in the public school and noticing they were very different than us. And different, like careless, more wild and free. We were very proper. We couldn't wear skirts above our knees. We couldn't wear shorts if it was hot out. We didn't have air conditioning in our school. We went to church every Friday. My first experience singing in public was as a song leader in church. And I liked both sides. I liked the wild and free, and I also liked the structure. And I've somehow crafted that to work in my life, to be human and enjoy life, but also stay connected to the divine, to remain in truth. But first, when I saw the difference, and I saw how the misunderstandings were there, I don't know, it was kind of like I had this personal relationship with God, and it was kind of like I thought, did anyone else really need to be involved in it? Maybe not. Maybe I can just keep it to myself. So what happens when we keep things to ourselves? They eat away at us, and we start to take on the form of what is being spoken and what is in our reality, and all of a sudden we're living lies. So fast forward to the time when I left the Catholic school. I really was ready for the public school before I actually graduated from what, would have been 2 more years in the Catholic school to graduate on their program. And I really wanted to go to the public school so I could go to the new middle schools in different towns and meet more people, get out of the structure I had been in. So I did. And there was like some intense bullying going on in our school for a while. And I didn't like it. I wasn't aware that I didn't like it right away. I had that wild side in me. But I remember one day when I had a friend of mine do something to pick on someone, and I thought, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person picking on people. And I thought about that for a while, and I thought, well, who did I want to be then? And I wasn't totally aware at that time of who I wanted to be. But what I pretty much told myself is I was going to keep an open mind. And I was going to allow experiences to help me understand who I was. And there was another guy in our town that, like, I thought was so cool and no one liked. And I was like, you're hanging out with me now. So we started hanging out, and since I was popular, then other people started to really like him too, which is just human nature. I mean, people don't realize really who we are as humans. And there's something different that happens when we connect ourselves to spirituality. There's a higher awareness. You can kind of almost like float above what the form and structure of your environment is and see things for as they really are, which is different from our 5 senses. And I think that's why I really do enjoy life so much right now, is because I have that spiritual part of me. So when I'm involved in my human form, I'm like all delicious with it. Like no one's wrecking my shine, right? I don't need any kind of conditions in my life to feel completely full, because being human is a blessing. And without that context, you don't understand that. You just drowned. You drowned in unawareness. And I like the word unawareness today, because it's really important to see someone not for what's happening, but their level of unawareness. And it adds so much context and richness into what our human experience is really struggling with right now. And turns out one of the girls that was getting bullied pulled me aside one day and said, I'm involved in this Christian conference. You kind of go away for a weekend and lock yourself into a church and pray and praise God. And I thought, interesting. I said, do you get to smoke? Because I was a smoker. I had a troublemaker side of me, a part that was rebelling against the world. That was my human way of separating, right? Was rebellion. It's criminality. All that stuff is a way that people are saying this is not okay with me, but they're in a state of unawareness, so they aren't conscious about what would be best for them, something like faith, for example. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, so she said, no, you can't smoke. And I said, well, I think I could make it. I think I could make it the weekend without smoking. That was actually my biggest thing. I would have never went there if I didn't think I could make it a weekend without smoking. And I did. Like, it's funny when you drench yourself in God, like, anything is possible. Anything. So that started my outing of my spirituality. And it didn't go like subtly. It was like all of a sudden I wanted everyone to know I was a Jesus freak, right? And I didn't even know what that really meant. It was just a song and whatever. Anyways, pulled in some more people to go to these conferences. I got into prayer. I was like a prayer warrior over the weekend. We'd take prayer requests all weekend and just pray. Just pray until the miracles started happening. And we literally prayed the whole time. And I actually gave a talk one time. I think it was my prayer, the weekend I was a prayer. I was a team member, I think maybe 2 times. I can't remember, I think. But I was, I went there and then I came back as a team member. And I did a talk. What would Jesus do? I had a lot of loss in my life, a lot of, it was kind of like I didn't have a lot of good feelings a lot of times from what I was experiencing in my life. It was a lot of hard learning things, and it seemed like along my journey for a really long time, I'd get this really great connection with someone, and then God would need to take them away, and they would die, and those were some of my first really hard struggles, was dealing with death. And and the talk I gave talked about what would Jesus do if he had these situations and had these problems at home and saw these things and was part of this experience. And I remember people came up crying afterwards, and I got presents from people and gifts, and people saw me years down the road. I didn't know who they were, but they had seen my talk, and it was still affecting them, and I changed lives. I changed lives through that speech. And I knew when I gave that I already had a lot of really important things for people to hear, and that it would make a difference for them. And I also learned the power of prayer, and it's one of the biggest things in my life now. And I also learned how to integrate spirituality with real life. And it started then. And I think I was amazed even back then that people really wanted God. Now, did they want him because I was just popular and they would do anything I said? I never thought of that. I never thought of that. Oh my gosh. I think what's more important is that I was popular because I was entertaining and I was fun, and I opened new doors for people, and I helped people see things in new ways, and I brought things together that people didn't normally see. And I was very easy to get along with, and I have a very hard edge. And when people feel close to me, they see that there is more to me than just meets the eye. And I don't allow just anyone to get close to me. I think back then I did. I did, and I had to learn. I mean, that's just kind of like, I'm so far from where I was as far as then. But one thing my faith has taught me is that people need answers. People need answers. We always need answers. And they're not in our human experience. We're not gonna find them in our dinner or while we're burning incense or looking at things. We find them when we're tapped into a higher existence. When we're here but separate. When we are aware. Awareness is not the body. It's not the mind. It's not the brain. It's not even the heart. It's the existence of it. It's not found. It's what we're looking for is the awareness. So it's not a place that has a destination. It's a calling. It's a whole road that never ends. And you find, if you walk a life of faith, that just pours down waterfalls of newness, freshness, cleanliness. Diamonds and crystally stuff, and like if you have a vision of like heaven, like being this really majestic, beautiful thing, like in a fairy tale, that just seems to go on forever, something that we don't seem to have today, because there seems to be, man has taken over almost everything. But heaven, the divine faith, is that place man hasn't wandered yet. And that's what we need right now. We need heaven. We need to go where we haven't went. I think we have destroyed, and demolished and thought our ways into things and let emotions and blindness guide us so very far that something else needs to happen. Something else, something greater, something true, something real. And that is faith. That is simply and immaculately faith.